What is going on, you guys? Welcome to episode 19, and we have a very special guest with us today, obviously. And we all know Coach Nik is our consistently...
Just assume I'm going to be here. The Pale Prince is always here.
Pale Prince.
To bless your screens with his presence.
Yeah. And we have Colton in the background as well. Devin is our client and guest today. Yep. And Devin has been with me for some time. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna walk through some timeline. Okay. But the one thing that I do have to say is that one of the reasons why we want you to be on here because you just had done your very first bodybuilding show that you've been wanting to do for how long?
10 years?
10 years. And you finally decided to do that, right? And you had another coach before and you wanted to do a show and then you transitioned to me. And then we finally got you to the point where you're mentally and physically ready to do the show, right? And then we're going to go through, just to kind of give the listeners what we want to talk about. And then we're going to go through, what you do for work and how you decided to do the show while at work, while being at work, surrounding yourself with those people. Yeah. And you had, at the time, you barely had a newborn when you came back with me in August. Yeah, when was your baby was born?
August 4th.
August 4th. That's right. So he came
back. So
it
was just, maybe 4
weeks, right?
After the baby was born?
That's right.
Like toward the end of August?
That's right. And so you came to me right after the baby was born. And mind you, a lot of parents think backwards, right? Well, I'm not ready to do this yet. I'm going to wait, which is fine. Like some people,
having a newborn, especially in the first couple of weeks, is rough.
Yeah. And so, which is fine. But so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about how you managed to prep through while your baby's like 8, 9, 10 months old. And that's rough. And the reason why I know that, because Nik is going to feel that in the future as well. But when I prep, when I started prep, my baby was 4 months old and I started prep. And towards the end of the prep, dude, it was so hard because I just couldn't be the dad that I wanted to be. Yeah. Because I was so tired on everything else, and it was a time that I would definitely regret that I don't want to go. I don't want to do it again. If we do have a second one, I won't prep after he or she turns 1. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna talk about that, and then talk about your experience with your first show. Okay. From beginning to end,
tan, backstage,
the whole thing.
It was fun.
The whole thing. So
I enjoyed it.
So anyway, let's start with kind of like your background and how did you started lifting and why did you start it and what was your turning point?
Let's see. Looking back on it, what really first got me into it was I was working on Honda, Ken Garf Honda of Orem, and my coworker Brandon would go to the gym and he was like, "Hey, you should come to the gym with me." And I didn't know anything about lifting. I didn't lift at all. I just kind of sedentary,
Were you an athlete growing up as a kid?
No running, no sports, no.
Really? Nothing? So you've never had a coach, like a true coach, until you met Justin before me?
Right.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I honestly thought you would have been like a football player or something.
Because you have such a discipline that typically came from an athlete background, because we know the reason why we know that because we coach a lot of clients that have never played sports before, and it's hard to coach that individual because they've never had a coach to really push them to the next level and be hard on them and be consistent and hold them accountable, and they don't like it, right? Because it's uncomfortable. You took that very well, really surprising.
Yeah, and it's funny because looking at like my baby pictures and younger pictures, like to now. Like 100% night and day difference. It was when I was born. I was born at 24 weeks.
Wow.
I was 2 pounds 6 ounces, and then I dropped down to 1 pound and 7 ounces. Whoa. And so I was in the NICU.
How long were you in NICU?
It's 68 days.
Whoa, dude.
Yep, my mom had to take like infant CPR classes, and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, be prepared that he may not make it."
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of weird to
see that. So you had a near-death experience when you were first born.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you don't know at the time, but looking back, right? Yeah. Have you had a conversation with your mom about that moment?
No, I didn't get a chance to I didn't get a chance to talk to her. She passed in April 2017. So
sorry to hear that, man.
But yeah, no, I mean, looking back, I wish I would have
had that conversation.
Did being born that premature, did it cause any issues? Like as a a baby, a toddler growing up?
Surprisingly, no.
Really?
Like,
I mean, that's good.
Like for all intents and purposes, healthy baby. My mom's friend had like the kind of the same situation, born at like 24, 26 weeks.
Yeah.
Paralyzed from the waist down.
Holy hell, dude.
And so it's like, I look at, right, some days, right, I have bad days, but I think back, it's like, I should just be grateful that I'm here.
Because you have that perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. That's crazy. So you never had a coach, you're pretty sanitary. And then what made you want to do the show? What was your turning point?
The turning point was actually funny. When I was in the police academy with my job, it was my lieutenant that was kind of running the class and everything, and he was this big, like 6'5", like Samoan, just like, I mean, probably identical to The Rock, just stacked. And I was just like, whoa, like I didn't know like anybody could look like that. And then there was a couple of like my classmates like, oh yeah, no, dude, like he did like competitions and stuff, and here's his photos, and I was just like, I want to do that.
So that inspired you right there,
like,
right? That
that's
moment.
what I want.
And that was 10 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it's funny because when that happened, I was still in the academy, but I was like, okay, just kind of doing all sorts of research, right? YouTube, Google, like, okay, how to gain mass and everything. And I wish I would have gotten a coach back then, because before, like just doing it like myself, I just shoveled in a bunch of everything.
How much creatine did you take?
So I didn't take any creatine, but I mean, I was stuffing my face with Panda, Costa Vita, Cafe Rio.
So you were adding mass,
King,
but
just like everything I could consume, and it was just. I did it horribly. I did it so horribly.
So then, how did you meet Justin?
Justin actually through my friend Steve. I met him through my sister-in-law, and I guess him and Justin used to work together back in the day, and they've been friends for like 25 years. It's like super old time. And I asked him like, hey, like I want to do a competition. He said, oh, okay. I have a friend, Justin, who's a coach, and he like showed me his website and showed me like his photos of how he got his wife to the Olympia and everything. And I was just like, yeah.
Oh, I was wondering.
Yeah. So for the listeners out there, and I know most of you guys know who he is, Justin Dees. Justin Dees used to be married to Heather Dees, and Heather Dees, her and I are really, really good friends. She's actually one of the judges. Heather Dees.
I saw that. I was like,
so she's a judge now and a coach, but she's a retired IFBB pro, because in order for you to be a judge now, you cannot be an active IFBB pro anymore. So it's dumb, to be honest.
I think she was the first person from Utah to make it to the Olympia, wasn't she?
I believe so.
If not one of the first?
Yeah, she's definitely one of the first, definitely probably female for sure. I don't know if it's male, but maybe both categories. I'm not sure.
Impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, she went and she won all of her shows leading up to a pro, and she did bikini for a little bit, and then she did and then she transitioned to figure. She looks amazing at figure.
Yep.
But Justin Dees, when we worked at Iron Ground, so that's the gym that we used to work at before FTC. And he's at the time he was actually one of my mentors. So I asked him a lot of questions about business and coaching. He's a smart fucking dude.
He's a go.
He's very intellectual.
Justin's incredible.
Yeah, so he's done a lot with the fitness industry. So he's well known. Now, since Heather and him are split up, obviously, and he ended up moving to Vegas, he's working out of the Dragon's Lair with Flex Wheeler now.
Yep.
Down in Vegas, and
that's a cool gym.
Yeah,
I liked it.
That
Flex
gym was so cool.
Flex Lewis,
yeah.
Flex Lewis owns that gym, so it's a cool thing. Like when you see, and then I actually saw him. I actually saw you a little bit with Justin at Iron Ground.
Yeah, I remember seeing you there.
I remember that. I'm like, oh, I remember this guy. And then after Justin moved, you reached out to me in 2021, and then you worked with him for only 3 months. Because at the time we have a 3-month program, right? So we only did 3 months, and then you came back August 2023.
Yep.
So you took like
Late
what?
August 2023.
Like
Almost a year and a half,
2 years.
to 2 years off,
Yeah.
bulking on your own in a bad way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Never do
bro.
that again.
Well, what? So really, so you're only with him for 3 months. Talk about that 3 month period, and then what happened at the end of it as to why you didn't renew, and then the time in between when you came back.
Yeah, no, that 3 month period that we had was phenomenal. It was everything that I wanted, right, in a coach. Like, he's like, hey, like, this is what you want, like a show. Let's
Gonna take some time.
Let's prepare you for it. And so, at the end of the 3 months, I actually ended up owing on taxes like $3,000. And so I was like, okay, I could use that money for coach or taxes. And it's like, well, I don't want my house repossessed. It's like, hey, I can't renew. I got too much stuff to pay for. So.
And then I was surprised when he reached out to me back in August and goes, hey man, I want to come back. And so when he came in prior to, I remember seeing him, I was like, bro, you've added some size. But without doing any assessment, I just assume, oh my God, like, you know, with your body type, it should be muscle, maybe a little bit of fat. You look a little bit bloated, that's okay. And when you first came in 2021, your body fat was about 20%. So you've never really exceeded over 20% in body fat.
See, and in my head, I felt like I was just probably over 40. I was like, I don't feel.
Everybody feels
everyone's that way. Yeah.
And then when you came back the second time, even though you've grown, and he actually weighted more. So my caliper anyway, it says he was about 18.
Yeah, his was like 17, 18.
Yeah,
when he came back.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's definitely some improvement. You gained some mass. But then when we started to do our body recomp, we started cutting and cutting. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, wait a minute. What is going on? Like, you should be able to see more mass. You know what I mean? Like, but he's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then we found out that, oh my God, like, it's, yes, your body fat's probably sitting between 17 and 20, but you were holding so much water from eating all that garbage.
Yeah.
Because you went up to 207. You went up to 207 when you came back.
Oh, I did?
Starting weight?
I'm pretty,
it was 207?
I thought it was 204.
or something.
But it's low 200s. I know.
Yeah. So let's just say below 210. So you came back below 210 and you've been eating so bad in the last a year and a half. But again, I didn't know that at the time. At the beginning, looking at his shirt, like it was full.
Yep.
But when you cut and you take all the glycogens away and you take all the carbs away, take all the water away, what do you really look like, right? I think that's what makes bodybuilding is so unique because you can look massive off season.
Yep.
Sure. Your muscle, I mean, you have so much water.
Yeah.
Everything's probably inflamed on some area, right? So or sometimes when you're on creatine, so you're holding way more water and high sodium, right? And so you look big, you look nice when you put a shirt on. But when you cut and being on a deficit,
you see what's underneath,
and you see what's underneath the water and the fat, and then you're like, oh.
Well, and let's talk about that because you were in the low 200s, and you again we thought body composition wise you did add mass, but there was so much inflammation and water weight. Now think about just the average individual out there. How much inflammation and water weight are they carrying around? It's not uncommon. We've had clients that within 3 weeks of starting with us, they drop 15 pounds. And it's not that they're losing 15 pounds of fat. It's they're that severely inflamed and swollen and bloated. Like there's just people walking around like that and thinking that's a normal feeling to have.
Yeah.
So once you started to lean out, how did you feel compared to when you came back? Like, did you notice like, holy shit? I guess the way I felt when we started the program to a couple months in, I guess I didn't feel good, or like what was that like?
100% felt better. I felt like I had more energy. I felt like I was quicker on my feet, right? I mean, even like faster cognitive function. Like I just felt so much better than what I did when I first showed up. And it was, and like even like work just felt easier. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's stressful job, right? But it's like even being leaner, like that helped me manage that stress.
Yeah.
Like,
and so real quick, so share what is it exactly you do for work?
I'm an adult probation and parole agent in Salt Lake.
So a very stressful job.
So you chase criminals essentially.
Well, I mean, I watch them. I'm supervising probation parolees from the courts and when they get released from prison. And I mean, if they do go fugitive, then yeah, I do.
If they go fugitive,
Wait, if I don't hear
Jason Bourne, if
I don't hear anything from Devin for his training sessions, I'm like, are you chasing someone, bro? Like, what's up? That's crazy, man.
I'm just curious, like, have you had to, like, has someone gone fugitive and you have to like full on manhunt them or like?
Yeah, I mean, there was times where, I mean, thankfully nothing happened, but I actually had to like pull my weapon and like give voice commands. Hey, like, get on the ground, put your hands behind your back, and that was very intense, stressful situation. But like everyone was fine. We got him. No one was hurt.
Yeah,
that's cool, man.
Damn,
that's cool. So let's go back to when you first came back, right? And then and then at the time we didn't really know. I know the goal was eventually to do a show,
right?
But we never solidified on a time frame. We never talk about prep really, and because the first thing we did was increasing your calories to your metabolic rate, and then we decrease it to the point where we're now officially cut for just to recomp your body, and then we just continue to cut because we have so much to cut at that point, and we're like, hey, why don't we just do June? And so we looked at the time frame. It was a perfect time frame.
That was exciting.
When did, because the cut started in January?
January 1st.
January 1st was the prep. So people listening to this right now, and when we prep for a show, in our company at least, I know there's a lot of coaches do the same. We don't prep for 12 weeks.
No.
We rarely, minimum maybe 15, 16.
But it depends on where you're at by the time we're starting. How much body fat do you have?
Yeah.
Are you lean enough? You know, are you eating enough food to support cutting that quickly?
Yeah, and so we decided to do, essentially that's almost a 20-week cut since January 1st to June 1st, right? Or 24 weeks. Yeah. So that's a good, but we gradually decrease your calories. You weren't starving until
the end.
Probably until like the very end.
Yeah, you weren't starving until May.
Coming to the office, you just sit in the chair and you're just staring into the void.
I know who's on prep and I know who's cutting, and as soon as they walk in the office, they just look, hey, is this your third low day? Yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
That's zero carb?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how did you manage? So let's talk about prep, right? So you started in August, we body recomp, and now we're into, the timeline is January 1st. Before we talk about prep, though, is your family into health at all?
Not at all.
No.
Zero.
No. My mom had a heart attack. Was
she overweight?
Aunt, yeah. Okay. My aunt had a heart attack.
Wow.
My uncle is on the verge of obesity. Same with my grandpa. And yeah, there was no activity level. I'm the first one essentially to do anything active.
So what was it like going to family functions and bringing food? Or it's just simply saying no to eating whatever was at the table or being served? Did you run into that scenario?
I mean, no. I mean, just when I'd bring the meals, and then everyone would ask, like, "Oh, you're not going to eat what we're eating?" I was like, "No, I'm on a meal plan. I'm not like."
Would they ever say anything like indirectly to you about it, or was it just like, "You're not going to eat that"? And you're like, "No, okay," and then that was it. Because we run into that where people, family members are like that. You go to a gathering, bring your food, they question it, and they're almost like backhandedly insulting you as to, you think you're better than us type deal.
Right. And I think for the most part they were supportive.
That's good.
They didn't really like question why I'm eating this meal instead of, the traditional Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, having a supportive family members, I feel like, is what definitely helps.
It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. And so when we started prep in January, how did you manage work, life, family balance, and prepping, and having
a baby? Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. It was a struggle. Like every time I would get overwhelmed, and it's just like, okay, stop. Take it a day at a time. Yep. Like tomorrow will be better, right? And so work, I'd prep all my meals the night before and have them bring with me to work, right? And then, people in the office, hey, let's go to lunch. Okay, get one of my meals out of the fridge, and I go and everyone's sitting eating. Got someone eating burgers, another dude eating like hot dog on a stick or whatever, and I'm just sitting here with chicken and rice. And like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm prepping for a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
They're like, oh,
this is at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, oh, that's cool. And I feel like work wise, like, I mean, not bashing any of my coworkers or anything, but I mean, I feel like I'm
you can say it.
more healthy.
No, 100%. 100%.
Them. But I mean, some of them are on meal plans as well, but I mean, they still kind of have that maybe like once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Which is fine, finding that balance. But I think what you're saying is a little bit, not a little bit, but really accurate in the sense of law enforcement with what it is that you do for work. Mm-hmm. It would make sense to be optimizing your nutrition and your health in case, God forbid, someone does go fugitive, and it's not just to draw your weapon and get them on the ground. It's you have to go after them. Like what happens if it turns into a hand-to-hand thing?
Oh, 100%. No, I agree with that. I mean, especially not the people that I work with, more indirectly work with, right? Mm-hmm. They're still part of the EPMP. But I mean, I've seen so many people just kind of with, their guts are hanging over their belt lines, and it was...
Is there no standard of, because I know in the military, my brother-in-law is really high up in the Army, and I know I believe it's 2 fitness tests they have to do every year, and he has to stay under a certain weight and a certain body fat, and if he fails that test, he can get, I believe it's like heavily fined, or he'll just, there's some kind of repercussion. Mm-hmm. Is there that in law enforcement, like with what it is you do, or do they not really have like a standard?
Do they have physical?
Yeah, physical, like,
physical tests every so often?
So they actually came out with like, hey, like just if you want to do the physical like standards that we would require to do the job, but there was no consequence or anything.
I wonder if they're a little more lenient about it right now because we're in need of. Can you speak on that? Are you in need? Like, is the community in need of law enforcement?
I mean, yeah, people, our department was definitely
because I know
struggling.
Yeah, it's a little different now, but I just wasn't sure if there was a standard. Like once you're in it, you go through the training, because I believe also, I think with police, they have to do a certain amount, I think like every month of like, what is it, like jujitsu training or some type of martial arts training, for the hand-to-hand.
Yeah, hand-to-hand.
So I just wasn't sure if there was some kind of physical standard, excuse me, that you have to meet frequently throughout your tenure in law enforcement. Because again, how are you, if you're big, like you have your gut hanging out and you're just obese. I've seen a lot of police officers who look like they're obese. How do you help someone if they need help? How do you chase a criminal down?
No, you don't.
Does a
liability fall on the officer for not being able to do anything?
Right. That's a hard conversation to be in because we do work with officers. Mm-hmm. I've worked with officers in the past and currently now, and you're one of them as well. And they come in. Obviously, they're skinny fat. Some of them are skinny fat, but most of them are overweight. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like if something would have happened, right? This is my perspective as a civilian. If something would have happened and someone called the cops, and then you step out of the car, and 3 officers showed up, and most of them are overweight, and I've seen that, right? Sure, they can probably do some basic stuff, but when things go south.
What are you
gonna do? That is very, as a civilian watching that scenario, we don't feel at all confident if that police officer can handle that situation simply because they're overweight, right? Yeah. And so it's not that we're judging that individual. I'm sure maybe they have some medical conditions or whatever. Like I get all that stuff, but I think as an enforcement, on the field, at least on the field. If you're not on the field, I get it. But on the field, at least you should have some kind of exercises routine.
Someone said that about Ronnie Coleman. So Ronnie Coleman is a police officer, and they were saying that as soon as he showed up, everyone would relax, because he's so big. I mean, you don't got to be like as big as Ronnie Coleman, but
the dude's an anomaly.
That's the thing too. Like, the bigger you are, he can't run.
Yeah,
how fast can he really?
That's true too. No, but still,
that's why I play keeper in soccer now because I say I can't run. Like that dude's 200 pounds heavier than me.
Yeah.
So going through the program the second time, and you're increasing your food, you're starting to slim out, all the inflammation is going away. And you kind of touched on it earlier. Did you feel like you could handle situations at work a lot better? Did you feel more confident? Think like, should something happen, I got it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. It was more so toward like the end, like middle end of May. Like, okay, like I am like super depleted. I have no energy. If something goes sideways, like I'm gonna do my best to do what I need to, but
yeah.
There's always that chance.
Did you keep a Rice Krispie in your pocket just in case something happens? You start to eat it and go.
No Rice Krispies.
Unfortunately, no, we did not. He didn't have the luxury to do that. But it's really cool to see your before and after, bro. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure incredible. a lot of our clients are listening to this. A lot of our listeners, you know, if you haven't seen Devin's transformation, it's on our page. We just posted that recently. And that was a huge accomplishment for you. So when 100%. You look at that picture before and after, what did you feel? What was the emotion? What was that feeling like?
I would say regret and shame. Like,
really?
How, looking at my after picture, it's like, how did I ever let myself get this bad? Mm-hmm. I mean, to everyone else, right? It's like, I mean, like you said, oh, hey, look massive, look, he gained mass. But I just felt sluggish. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, energy was there, but it's just like I feel like I wouldn't move as fast, right? And so seeing that, like I told myself, I will never get that way again.
And what did your wife think of that?
She was super proud of me. Super proud of me and my accomplishment. She knows I've been wanting to do it for 10 years, and she's like, you just got to get it done. Mm-hmm. And
at some point in your journey while prepping, did you ever get emotional and you break down? Because I know I did.
Oh, all the time.
I know Nick did.
All the time.
Right? Especially my first 2 shows, I did. I broke down a couple of times because it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
I mean, you're depleted, you're exhausted. You're not eating a lot of food. And did you ever get emotionally just...
And it's not like a negative way. Like, sometimes I would tear up because it was a happy tears. And when I walk by a mirror, I'm like, holy shit, I can see my shoulder. I never had that.
I have a new vein?
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah. So I never had that. Sometimes we get emotional.
Yeah.
Of like thinking about how far we've come and the work that we put in. Mm-hmm. Did you ever get, or did you, like, I can show you my example. My wife and I, we were prepping for my first show, and we did a photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this a lot. And the day after I got my photo shoot in, I was literally crying on the treadmill, looking at myself because I couldn't believe what I saw. And I've never taken my shirt off in the gym. Mm-hmm. We did that in the gym, in a crowded area. So that broke me, dude. Like, I was crying on the treadmill like a little girl. That was crazy. But it was such an accomplishment on my end. So what is your experience?
I can say with this prep, there was no real, like, emotional, like, response, but more so of, like almost like surprise, like, wow, I didn't know I could do it. Like, I didn't know I can go from that to that. And so it was, I mean, there were times too where I got super low energy and just be irritable. But
which is normal.
But I mean, yeah, overall, just surprised. And it's like, wow, I can do that.
And how did you deal with that with your son? Was it hard being a dad?
100%. Waking up every couple hours to feed him, change him. It was, that was, that was probably balancing that and prep on top of work, right? Because I still need to go see the people that I supervise, like late nights, and so it's like, that got.
Yeah. What about the opposite? So instead of positive, do you ever have those, like, dude, like, you're like ready to give up, you're like, I can't, I'm so this is a blanket statement, but none of us like doing this.
No.
Every time, like,
how often do you and I look at each other like, why the fuck?
Dude, we'll go work out in the gym and we're like, this sucks.
Why did we decide we don't want to sit at a desk, but instead we want to do this?
Right. Sometimes we all 3 of us gym.
Yeah.
All we do is bitch.
First 2 workouts.
That's it, bro.
First 2 workout in, and it gets hard, right? We're going heavy and we're sweating, and it hurts at this point. And we always question ourselves, like, why are we doing this? But I think the alternative of that is also hard.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that. Colton's saying, you know, you literally had to question, do I want to continue to do this because your legs and shoulders hurt? But that's from exercising and taking care of your body. But it's even harder to say, do I want to continue to do this when you wake up and you just have that chronic pain? You have whatever the health condition is and all. I mean, choose your heart. Would you rather wake up and be like, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to get through the day today because I have my stomach issues, or, you know, I just feel like shit, or I'm dealing with all this, versus, oh God, I have to walk up a flight of stairs after leg day.
Yeah.
Like, I think most people would see that as a luxury, and yeah, it hurts. And I get people are afraid of the pain that they're going to experience after the gym, but I promise you that pain, if you really stop and think, is more rewarding than the pain of waking up and
having something else be wrong with you.
You can barely get out of bed because of, you know, just something that you had. Bad knees,
lower back.
Yeah, your lower back is hurting, you know, or, you know, God forbid, gout, or you're just, you're so overweight from years and years and years of eating habits or a health condition or whatever that you've chosen to ignore, that you have a hard time moving. You can't, you have to get an apartment on the bottom floor because you can't walk upstairs. Like,
and one thing that I want to say to that, it's not just being overweight physically.
Some people are skinny and still have problems.
Yeah. You can look the healthiest person in the room, but you have horrible kidney functions, liver functions, and your hormones off.
And it's a guarantee too. Like, the pain in my legs will only last 2 or 3 days. A lot of those things you said will last a lifetime.
Like, tomorrow, Monday's gonna be gone.
Sick forever.
I wanna speak about this for a second, okay? So I want you guys to really listen to what I have to say. The secret to longevity, are you ready? Is to gain muscle, to continue to exercise. So in other words, exercise, right? So if you, like, I don't care if you're 55 listening to this, if you're 65 listening to this, and if you stop being active and you're being very, very sedentary, you know, I don't know what's going to happen the next couple of years. If you fall,
your potential of letting something bad happen.
Yeah, if you fall, for example, and you're older and you don't have any muscle, your ligament's going to tear right off the bat. Your bone's going to break right off the bat because there's nothing to protect it. Nothing. Like, how many times have we all fallen on ice on the stairs, right? And when we were kids, we can bounce back up. Now, probably, too. I mean, we still can. I fall now. I don't hurt myself because my muscles take an impact first.
Give it 5 more years.
But the thing that I want to really talk about is the longevity. The secret to longevity is to gain and continuing to gain muscle or exercise as we get older. But for some reason, people do the opposite. Oh, we're done. 45, 50, 55, 65. I'm retired.
But it's also understanding that, yes, you can go and you can have some fun foods and, you know, drink, have a beer, like whatever, but you can't do that all the time. You know, and we always say it's never too late to start. Your mother-in-law was doing it with you for a while, and like,
she's 65.
Perfect example. My grandmother last year, right before we were going to Iceland, ended up in the hospital, and she almost died from a liver infection. Her bile ducts got backed up, and this has happened to her before, and she almost died. And when we got her blood work back, I looked at it with my dad, and she was severe type 2 diabetic. Her liver was very inflamed. She had some issues. And, you know, my grandmother's 82. She's going to be 83 this year. And, you know, but she's lived a very long life. But she was able to reverse being a type 2 diabetic. She lost a significant amount of weight. And she flew back home to Serbia by herself a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's cool, because you told me that she didn't want to because of her health condition.
Well, she wanted to last year before Nanette and I went to Iceland, and then she ended up in the hospital, and we almost canceled our flight because I thought, you know, she's going to pass. And she was in the hospital, and then she got out, and my dad really made sure she would, you know, watch what she's eating. We need to watch sodium intake because she's having a lot of issues. She's on some pills and this and that. And she wanted, I think this honestly might be the last time she gets to go back home due to her age, and it's hard to travel, and we know that, right? But the fact that she was able to, she thought she was never going to go home again and see her homeland. She reversed being type 2 and is now back home in Serbia, and she's healthy as hell. And she's going to be 83. So you're telling me at 40 years old, you can't do it? I don't believe that for a goddamn second.
Well, I know that Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson, you guys are familiar with Jordan Peterson, his daughter, she's had like severe, she was born with it, severe arthritis. Since she was a little girl, changed her diet, started exercising, it's gone. Like, something that she's had her whole life.
My client, Charlotte, one day you're going to be on this podcast, and I know she's going to listen to this. She has to go to New Mexico, I think it's every 4 months now, to get infusions for her arthritis. So she has really bad in her knees and hips because she has Crohn's disease. She has FAP, so she had to get her colon removed because of a lot of polyps that were developing. Jeez. But since we've changed her diet in a year and a half, and I mean, she was afraid to even go heavy in the gym because it could inflame her hips or her knees or her shoulder. Now, I mean, we're cutting right now, but holy shit, dude, we were able to add 20 pounds of mass, really start to fill her out and develop a shape. And she was hitting PRs almost weekly, if not bi-weekly, in the gym with zero Crohn's pain or arthritis pain.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you have, arthritis or even osteoporosis or brittle bones and all that, the best thing you can do is next to eating clean is exercise, strengthen that bone marrow, strengthen the muscle tissue around it. Correct. That's what's going to help you feel better.
Correct.
It's going to suck for the first little bit, but I promise you stick with it, and you're going to enjoy the pain of muscle soreness versus the pain of arthritis and brittle bones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes along with that saying, right? Health is wealth. My wife's grandpa will actually be turning 100 on July 4th.
Dude.
And it's just like this big birthday celebration that everyone's going to. I won't be attending, but from what I know of him, he had an healthy lifestyle, like up until, I don't know if he's still doing it today, but I mean, every morning he'd wake up and go for a walk, something simple, like nothing strenuous.
There was a guy in my grandparents' neighborhood. He was, easily in his 90s, and at the time, but when I was a little kid, I remember I'd see him. I'd go over on the weekends and mow the lawn, and every day I'd see him walking past my grandparents' house, and he'd have these weights. They'd only be like 5 pounds, but he'd walk, and he'd swing his weights over his heads and do lat raises and stuff. And I swear to God, he lived to be 150, bro. Like, and that's the thing too, is not everyone wants to live to be 150. And that's not what we're talking about.
I do.
I think it's like if you live to be 70 or 80 or 90, you just want to, like,
you want to be independent.
You want to live. You want to be able to live. Like, I want to be. I mean, if you look at like Stallone and Schwarzenegger, they're in their 80s. They're pushing 80, and they're both still doing action movies. And dude, like, my grandparents are in their early 70s, and my grandpa's like, "Oh, I like picked this thing up and threw his back out," and you know what I mean. So it's just one of those things. Like, when you are alive, you want to be living and taking care.
My
of
biggest
yourself.
fear was when I'm older, like that 70s or 80s. That I'm going to...
Someone's have to take care of you?
Yeah, someone's like, Mila, my daughter's going to have to take care of me. I'm going to have to live with her. Or, I'm going to have to be in a home. Like, my grandpa was 77 and died ultimately from his third heart attack. My grandmother was 70 and died of a gangrene infection because she was so obese. And then my dad's dad, my dada, he passed away at 60. He was 5 days away from his 66th birthday, and he died of colon cancer. So it's like, my family...
All things that are preventable.
Yeah, they're preventable. My grandfather, he had health issues because of stuff that happened to him as a kid during the Second World War. But, ultimately, a lot of the stuff could have been prevented. And I don't want that to happen to me. Too. Yeah, my dad's going to be 60 this year, and his ass is still playing soccer. We had a game last night at 11:30, and he's running circles around these little 18-year-old kids. And they're like, after every game, like, how the hell did you do that, dude? And like, I want to be like that when I'm 60. My biggest fear is becoming decrepit and being stuck in bed, and someone has to bathe me and change my diaper.
Speaking of like blood work and things like that, do you mind talking about yours? Were you did you happen to be like we were all low on T? Like, what was your blood work like? Because I know that you had to go get it.
I mean, I had no real. I mean, like kidney, liver function, everything came back, normal. T was probably.
T was low.
Low,
yeah,
a little bit low.
Because so you're on testosterone treatment, from a doctor. So I think if I remember correctly, I think you were sitting at between 200 to 300 testosterones.
And how old are you?
I'll be 31 next Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh.
And how long have you been on this TRT? When did you start?
I know it's over a year ago.
Yeah.
I just don't remember the date.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about because it's a thing, the increase in low testosterone in men specifically? It's not new. It's noticeable that as time goes on, the increase in low testosterone in men is more noticeable. Do you think it's food, fast food, lack of exercise? Like, even kids today, like even when we were kids, because like we're all about 30, 31, gym class isn't even the same. Like they don't even play dodgeball anymore or anything. You know what I mean? Do you think? Because exercise it's not a lot, but that does increase your testosterone.
It does naturally, especially when you do legs. When you do legs consistently. And so a lot of you girls or guys are natural as of right now, and you guys have a really, really good testosterone levels. The best way to keep that up is to do legs once or twice a week.
Yeah, and there's certain foods that can help with that.
Yeah, there's certain foods that can definitely help with that. But the problem with that is, let's say you wanted to not be on the shots, and you decided to do the holistic approach, which is perfectly fine. You can still eat, clean foods and exercise, but at some point when you're low testosterone, it's going to keep declining every year. You know what I mean? So when you're 40 years old to 50, it's going to drop probably 100 if not more points, right? So
that should be when you're 40s, 50s, even pushing 60s, not when we're in our 20s and 30s.
But what back to what Colton was saying is we've seen some individuals as young as 21 years old. I have another guy right now, he's 22 years old. He's not on the shot, but he's on Clomid. He's taking an oral form, which is fine, right? It's whatever they want to do on their end. To treat we don't force you to do any of that, but we advise you to say, hey, let's talk to a doctor and see what you can do to elevate that, right? To optimize. But we've seen 21, 22, and it's getting more common and common now. Now, average 25. When you hit 25, they're already low
dropping
for a male. Which is crazy because in the studies it should be past 30s when you start dropping your T. Now it's getting to the point.
Well, it should even be a little. Technically, it should be even older than that because technically, if you're going off of the book, your metabolism shouldn't even slow down until you're roughly 62, 63. That's when you should start seeing a decline in it. But now, how many people do we hear? Let's say the second they graduated high school, they could eat whatever they wanted, and then they graduated, and once they got into their 20s, their metabolism slowed down. It's like, well, no, it's stressed out because of the food that you're doing in your lifestyle. And now, obviously, as social media is getting bigger and all that, bodybuilding's gotten a lot bigger. And with that, naturally, is going to come the bro science of people talking about testosterone and all that. And so I think, to answer Colton's question, through my answer, we're getting a better understanding every decade as to what hormones are and looking at blood work, and we're finding new ways to not only check things but try to optimize it. And as we're doing that, we're getting parallel to it, we're getting more and more sedentary. And now, instead of us going to the grocery store, we're Uber eating our groceries to the house, right? Instead of going to McDonald's to get the Big Mac, we're having it delivered to the house. Instead of going to the store to buy whatever groceries is you need, we're ordering it on Amazon type deal. And so we're getting so sedentary, and our food is getting worse and worse, and people, instead of actually wanting to cook a home meal, having dinner every night together like how it used to be and all these things, they're looking for convenience. And now I think we're starting to evolve to the point where we might not need to be producing that. I'm not a hormone specialist. I just think the lifestyle that we're living in, the food and the stress and the sleep quality and the grind culture of you don't sleep, you work, is fucking up people's hormones.
The combination with food, stress, sanitary, right? And the way of life. That's this. We live in this such of easy life, bro. Like if you look at bodybuilding in the 80s and 90s or even early 2000s, they don't have internet. So how do you track your macros? Dude, I don't even know what macros are. See what I'm saying? Right?
Well, and if you watch old videos of Arnold, all he really says is like, because you see all these videos are like, this is a great source of protein. It's got this many, blah, blah, blah. But all the old videos, they're like, chicken is good for you. Raw eggs. I drink 4 raw eggs every morning.
Yeah, exactly.
And they couldn't, there's no way they could get as lean or as vascular as you guys these days. There's no way, dude.
We have more technology today on our freaking hands. You don't in fact, you don't even have to get a coach if you don't want to. If you know what you're doing, you don't have to get a coach.
Look it up.
You can look it up. Right? You can Google everything. You have MyFitnessPal. Every food has a barcode that attached to it.
Scan something and it tells you.
Boom.
But back then, they to a certain extent could still track macros, but they were doing it by hand. You're writing the shit down on a piece of paper.
And it was like,
could you imagine your third week of 0 carbs on prep, and you have to write your freaking macros down to figure out how much carbs you've had that day?
Oh my god!
And I think it's all hearsay too. They were like, it's about this much, so you would just kind of guess.
Yeah, just wing it.
Take the guesswork.
But I think it start with the mindset first. Yeah. Because what happens when you're low testosterone, you don't realize it. Number one, you don't know if you're low. Yeah. And all of a sudden you want to take a nap every day. Your sex drive is super low, right? And even if you can continue during sex, and sometimes you lose it. Yeah. You don't have the desire to do anything more.
Might not have the appetite. Yeah. It could be, it could even be a psychiatric thing. It could be, a depression or an anxiety, right. And or something that shows up.
Anxiety kicks in. Yeah. Depression kicks in simply because you're low testosterone. And then let's say you play pickleball, soccer, or whatever sports you want to do, or maybe go to the gym and you're not seeing results. You're tired all the time, but yet you're eating healthy and killing yourself to do all these things, but you're still not looking the way you want to look. So I think it starts with the mental, and then it follows with once everything is corrected, the physical is going to follow. And when you're at that high, you already achieved so much to get there, and then you want to keep going. Yeah, I think that's the attitude that we get is when we optimize ourselves, eating healthy, exercise, hormonally balanced. All of a sudden, oh my God, we want to start a business. We want to do this. Let's do more. Let's do more.
You have more energy too.
You have more energy.
You can take on that stuff. But I also think like for me, what happens is if I start something and I don't get too far, it's easy to give up. But like right now, being far enough into this, I would be, it's like the same thing. I'd rather lay on the floor for 10 minutes and just bitch about being in pain than go back. That's way more painful because you're so invested.
But for me to answer your question really quick, it's I think people just don't understand what testosterone is supposed to do. They think, oh, if you have high testosterone, excuse me, you're an alpha male, and you're one of these alpha bros, on TikTok and all that, which is that's not it. No. So once we get our blood work done, because when I got mine done the first time to check my testosterone, I was just under 600. But I was having
double what I had.
But I was having symptoms of low testosterone. Yeah. And so my doctor, she reluctantly decided, okay, we're going to try it. If you start feeling better, then we're going to treat you as if it was low T. I'm like, okay, cool. I did that, but it wasn't even necessarily it was the testosterone that helped me to, become who I am today. It was like what Johanna said. It was the discipline. My God, sorry. It was... So I'm doing that, and so with that, I'm like, I know I need to eat better, so I start eating better, and I'm going to the gym. I'm taking care of myself, and I'm finally paying attention to how I feel and to me, and giving myself that self-respect and that love that I was trying to give to others. And that, I think, is what, turned us into who we are today. It wasn't necessarily that our testosterone went up. It was just like what Johan said, we optimized ourselves.
We're more self-aware. Right. When we have headaches, we know exactly why.
Well, I think people drink enough water. They think that when you take testosterone, it's miracle juice. It's Captain America.
Right. No, you can inject yourself.
So that's kind of what I meant. Is like a lot of people think like, oh, I'll get on testosterone and then I'll be jacked. No. It's like, dude, if you're on testosterone and you don't take care of yourself, you'll just get fat.
Yeah. But that's the thing. If you take testosterone and you don't change your eating habits, just that alone, it's not going to be able to do its job. Yeah. And you run the risk of breaking out in acne. You run the risk of a lot of different things, right? And if you just inject yourself, you're doing it wrong. And the bro science of, some guy in the gym's like, hey, bro, take testosterone. You're going to get jacked like me. Do 500 milligrams a week. Your blood's going to get so thick, it's going to turn into fucking like pudding. Like, just because you get on a compound and then even know what it is. And it's not that it's a steroid. It's a hormone that you need. The reason why we die is because our body stops producing hormones.
Yeah. And back to, so now that we explained testosterone and you're on TRT, did you feel any difference before and after you're on it?
Before and after, before being on TRT to now, right? It's the typical symptoms, right? Like low energy, low sex drive, just kind of moody. After being on TRT, right, higher energy levels, higher sex drive. You sleep better, cognitive functions better, everything. And two, with that, right, like what you were saying earlier, testosterone, anything that you take, whether that be testosterone, Ozempic, semaglutide, whatever, nothing can replace hard work.
Yep.
Yeah. Like you just 100%. Need to have the discipline and
hard work over talent any day. Yeah. Talent can only get you so far, And if you don't have the grit and the consistency and the discipline, You won't go anywhere with it. So when you're on prep, so now that you have, obviously you explained it was hard to be a dad. It was hard to balance life. I get all that. So let's walk through the peak week.
That was fun.
The changes that
peak week was fun.
I remember. So, if ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what a peak week is the week before the show, exactly 7 days before the show. What do? Well, we change our water consumptions, we change our food consumptions, we change our cardio. There's so many things that we do. Number one, to de-stress your body. Drink a lot of water. The more water you drink, the more you flush. No one believes that until they do it.
Right.
You're chugging
It's
water
weird.
and you're getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and all you're doing is peeing every 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a natural diuretics at that point, right? And then we change your veggies consumption as well, so to more of a natural diuretic kind of veggies. And so, what did you feel from Saturday to Saturday, right before you step on stage? Walk us through that.
Saturday to Saturday. Let's see.
If
Saturday was the first day. That was, I was up to, 2 gallons of water a day. That was the hardest of that whole week, was just getting in the 2 gallons. It's like, I am drinking so much water, I feel like I'm going to, like, burst at the seams, right? But then, but then by the end of the day, and I wake up the next morning, I'm like light as a feather. Like, I could move, like, so quick.
How many times did you pee at night?
Oh, I was waking up multiple times. Multiple times.
And did you get up to go get your son and give him a bottle?
That, gave him a bottle. It's like, hey, well, I'm up. Going to go to the bathroom.
I laugh so hard at that because, man, when I'm on prep, I'm like peeing 4 or 5 times.
Bro, legit last night, because I'm doing a gallon a day, legit last night, I woke up in the middle of the night in a panic because I was going to, like, I was totally going to piss myself.
Yeah.
And I was, like, having a nightmare before it happened, too. I was like, oh, God, no. And then I woke up and I was like, I got to pee.
So, and mind you, a lot of listeners may not know this, but while you were prepping the last 2-3 weeks of going into your show, I was actually out of the country. And so when you text me, it's always at nighttime for me. So I'll be like 7:30 p.m. You send your check-in. I know he's still sleeping, so and then I respond. That was perfect. So
I was
I
at
know
like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. You were sending that?
So I know the time differences, right? And then I have to wait. And then when I wake up early in the morning, I have to make sure I check my phone first thing because you're at midnight at that point, or you're later that day, right? So it's so weird for me to like not going to bed, and you're just waking up, and then when I wake up, you're not even going to bed yet. So it's a weird concept for me to figure it out. But we made it work. Up until Friday, and then Saturday, Nik took over completely. Yep. Because Saturday was the day that my culture celebrating our thing back home. So I wasn't able to. Even if I tried, I was tipsy at that point anyway. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I got some cool videos.
Yeah, it was fun time. It was fun time. It was much needed. So Friday, you got your tan.
Yep.
How did you feel with that tan?
So
you took that picture by the window, right?
Yeah. So with that tan, dude, that was like, I think that's when it really like set in for me. Like, okay, like damn,
standing in there getting it.
We're doing this. Like, this is happening. And then we went out and took that photo, and it's like,
were you there at the first tan?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I was there for both. So I got to the hotel. Because I had a game at 5:30 and his tan was at like 6:30. So as soon as I was done, I was drenched in sweat and all my soccer shit smelled horrible. I just got in the car and ran over there and got there. He got his tan. So I went into the room as he was finishing and drying. We went into the hallway and I took that picture of you. I mean, you were already lean and you were tight, but once you have the tan on, that's what people don't understand. We get the tan because it helps to see everything.
Definition.
If you're your normal skin complexion, or in my case, if you're see-through, you can't see when you're on stage because the lights are so bright. You can't see the definition. You can't see the cuts. You can't see the striations. So the tan and the baby oil or whatever the hell it is we put on is what helps to see it.
You'll see Nick's internal organs before you see his muscles.
Or you'll see my heart. You'll see my heart going like it is. You'll see the food digesting and turning into shit. Like,
the worst part about this
he's
is
like one of those fish in the Marina's trench, bro. That's like see through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The worst part about this is when we film the podcast, he's wearing a white shirt.
I know.
So
up against the white wall.
Yeah. Well, you know, I didn't even think about it until before you started to like record everything, and you're like, that light's too bright, so I turned it down. I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like,
and it reflects too.
Like, this isn't helping.
The one advice that I gave him, like, you
Don't
should
wear a
never
white shirt.
wear a white shirt.
Bro, I own like 4 shirts.
Okay,
Okay?
there's
And
one
2 of them are white.
There's one of 2 things. Nik is either a vampire that's been alive for like 1,000 years.
I
Because
mean,
I've actually
my family's from Serbia.
No. Think about it like this.
Vampires
Think
are
about it
really
like this.
here.
When was the last time you saw Nik outside? Ever?
Never.
I've never seen him outside, bro.
You know what? No,
And
actually,
I've only seen him in your no. Shut up. I've only seen him in your house. No, in your house.
I do my cardio
or,
at daybreak, bitch.
Nah.
I'm going outside with my shirt off and I'm walking.
No.
Yeah,
I've never
I'm going
seen
from
Nik
white to red.
outside. I've only seen him in the gym or in your house. Even when he's here for barbecues, I ain't never seen him in the backyard. And if he is, it's dark.
Avoiding sun like the plague.
Yeah, dude. It's either that or he died and no one told him. And so, like,
Oh my god.
I'd appreciate you not discriminating on my
Yeah,
vampire
bro.
people.
So back to Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so I took the picture of you, and when I sent it to him and I sent it to you, I was looking at it, I was like, holy shit, you look like a completely different person from when you came back.
And that was
Felt like
me.
a completely different.
And that
person.
was me waking up in the morning, seeing that picture. I was like, oh shit. And I'm like, dude. And I was like, the first. And what is the first thing I always say when you send those things? I always say, how do you feel? I always say that. Because it's all about how you feel, right? Cool, you can look great. You look amazing. Yeah. How do you feel with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, felt good. Obviously, you know, the tan, right? And then it started like setting and like, damn, this is happening. And then it almost kind of started spiraling, like, oh crap, like it started getting like anxiety and everything. It's like, no, just relax. Your first show. It's not like you don't need to be perfect. Just go in and do your best. Like just take it as it comes. And
What about Saturday? Because we woke up early Saturday for you. So for people listening, pretty much like, you know, a couple days going, you know, before the show, and then especially the morning of the show, he doesn't know what he's eating.
Yep. No idea.
You wake up, you send a picture, and then we say, okay, I want you to do X amount of chicken, you know, maybe a rice cake or rice or whatever the case is. You eat it. An hour later, we get a picture. And then based off of that, then we decide, okay, what is your next meal going to be an hour after that? So what was the feeling when you woke up Saturday morning, the morning of the show, sent that picture, I tell you what I want you to eat, we start getting ready to go get your next tan. Like, what were you feeling that entire morning leading up to you get on stage?
Oh, I mean, I would say anxiety because, like you said, I don't know what I'm eating. I just have to wait for the text to come in, like, hey, this is what you're eating. And so it was almost.
What's that like for you? Like the trust, you know, like do you have to sit there and just be like,
I had to trust completely.
I gotta trust. Yeah.
It's like, I just have to trust. Like they know what they're doing. They've done this for
Jesus, take the wheel.
I don't know how many years. And so, yeah, I decide it's like, okay, well, I had a feeling, right? It's going to be chicken or some protein source with some carbs, right? And so it's like, okay, just rice, and I'll just cook a bunch and just bring it with me. Yep. And then I'll just measure
put it in your little baggies and all that. And then, so we get to the hotel that morning. We were there at like 7 and got your tan. And then we had a little bit of time because we didn't have to be to the school until 9.
Right.
So, I mean, your wife came and picked you up in the parking lot, and then you guys left, and I was going to meet you over there. Yep. What was your feeling like going to the school? Like, did she have to help calm you down, or just like give you a little pep talk?
No. So whenever I like panic, I do like a silent scream in my head. Like I try not to let it show on the surface, but like internally, I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And so,
but then you're sitting there like just blank staring
right
out the window.
But I mean, I say the tan, right, when it's like started setting in, but like when it really hit me is like when I walked in and I walked out and saw the stage and I was like, okay.
And then you walked to the back of the stage. Was that Olympus or was it?
It was at Olympus, yeah.
Olympus is way better. Olympus has more space.
Yeah, Cottonwood's pretty small backstage. Olympus was great. So we posted up back there. We did the athlete meeting, and you were
the bay door?
You were quiet.
Was the bay door open? Did they?
Yeah, they had it open.
I did the same show last year. Yeah. So all we did, my warm up was literally a stand in the sun. I barely pumped up. I just stand in the sun, and I was warm. Yeah. That was it. I was like, why would I do all the work? Like if you're listening to this and you're competing and if the bay door's open, or if you have access to go outside, and if it's
careful not to sweat.
Not to sweat. Yeah. Depending on where you're at, obviously you can't do that in Arizona because you'll be sweating. or Vegas.
Your feet will get stuck to the pavement.
Oh my God. Yeah. And so now that you're in the backstage, you're warming up.
All competitors are walking back and forth. People getting tan. They're calling numbers.
Glaze, right? It's chaotic.
Chaotic.
Right? It's always chaotic, dude. Like I don't care what events you're in. It's always chaotic. So you have to be ready, right? And I don't even put my headphones on because I can't hear, and I like to hear what's going on, and so I'm always ready. So anytime when I'm competing, they're like, "Oh, what's your number? 54." I'm like, "Oh, cool." Like, thank you for being here. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Yeah, I don't want to be over there.
Yeah, but do you know how long it took to get here and how expensive this shit was?
I'm ready to get on stage. Let's go. Yeah. So it's and my question to that is, when you're backstage, knowing that this is your first show, and there's people in there had done 4, 5, 6, 7 shows. What was your reaction when you saw their physique versus your physique?
What the hell am I even doing here? Like, what am I even doing here? Like, it's so impressive seeing how a physique can change. I mean, like, even my transformation, right? Dropping a bucket compared to what, like you said, this guy 4, 5, 6, 7 shows. See where they first started at to that point, right? Like,
But they probably did all those shows in the 10 years it took for you to decide you wanted to do a show until you got on stage. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is, and it's hard to not compare yourself when you're backstage, right? It's hard not to. But people really do that, and it's like, well, no, like they've been doing this for the last, seriously, 10 years, and so in that 10 years there's also been a lot of bulking, there's been a lot of cutting, there's been a lot of optimizing things. They're growing muscle tissue density, maturity, so it's easier said than done, but that's why it's, try not to compare yourself because they've been doing this a lot longer. Right. But then what was it like pumping up? We told you, hey, go get touched up, get your shorts on.
Yeah.
I told you, take your salt packet.
And one of the reasons why we are always there to tan with our clients, because we want to make sure that our clients are taken care of. Because sometimes when they do the tan, and then our job is to go in and really look at you at the different lighting or flashlights to really flash. And as soon as we saw a missing piece or some discoloration, we tell you, go back in.
No, gotta go and fix
it. Because you pay so much money to be there, and you pay so much money for the tan. We want to get it right. So I'm anal about that. Yeah. So when I'm with my client, I come in, I'm with them the entire time, looking at them, glaze in the back. When you're in the back stage, like we're there. After you glaze, he looked at you, right?
Yeah, no, that was super. Yep. I really appreciated that because, like I said, first show, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. I don't know what is going on. I'm just kind of going where they tell me. And having that, second, third pair of eyes on you, I was like, okay, yeah, things are looking good. Like, just gave me that much more reassurance that, okay, it's going to be good. And
then especially for your first show, bro.
Yeah.
I remember so what we wanted, because you and Teo, and so Coach Payton and I were back there, and bodybuilding had just got done, and classic physique was going, and they were starting to finish up. So the people backstage were starting to say, we want men's physique to line up and start getting ready. And all of these guys in men's physique are all of a sudden they're eating their Sour Patch Kids or Pop Tarts, whatever, and they're taking their salt and they're pumping up. And Payton and I looked at you and Teo and we told you, don't wait. And so when he started to pump up, and I gave you the salt packets, and then you start pumping up, and I was hand feeding you Sour Patch Kids, all of the men's physique guys were already lined up getting ready to go out, and we timed it. And the reason why is because if you pump up too early, you're going to get that pump, that blood flow, the glycogen replenishment, but then you're going to go flat the second you get on stage. So we had to time it.
And then your blood sugar drops.
Yes. And then you're sitting there, you're trying to hold that front pose, and you look like you're having a seizure.
You're shaking on stage.
And so what was that like? You're pumping up, and I'm like, I want you, here's 2 salt packets, down it, swig of water, eat a couple of Sour Patch Kids, start doing this. Like, what was going through your head during that process?
I mean, just nerves, butterflies, like this is really happening. And then when you're standing in line, you could see the stage, and they're like calling competitors out, right? And then, okay, this section go out, and then as soon as I stepped on stage, like it's just nerves. But the lights, I feel like kind of sort of dimmed who was in the audience. So like I
they're so bright you can't
be able to see anybody.
Okay, that's good.
Like I never seen.
As long as I don't see like anyone's reactions and stuff, like I'll be fine.
Yep.
And then when you the salt packets, like I felt good. I felt pumped. Like okay, like I'm ready to go.
Yep.
And so I don't know what the other competitors were feeling like. Like you said, they're probably going flat and stuff. But I mean, I felt good and pumped.
And then what did you place? On the show?
Third place, true novice, and then in my open class,
it was second in open, right?
Second.
Yeah.
Wow. And did they do the individual routine in the morning, right? Because
no,
it was such
it was prejudging, and then they did individuals at night.
Oh, okay. I thought they were going to
do
do
the morning. No,
no.
There was. I mean, it was a pretty big show.
It was over 100.
Oh, well over 100.
Yeah, there was a lot of people.
Well,
I was in AZ in Mesa for Ruben, and they had 97.
I know this show was pretty big, and considering it's June, because not a lot of people. The June show is a big show, but I think people just don't want to be on prep going into summer.
I like to prep going into summer because then I'm shredded for the summer.
Exactly.
That was my thought.
Yeah, because then you went to where did you go?
I went to Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
So
the week after I got back, right? I'm waiting in my office.
I know you texted Jake. You guys, do you know where Devin is? Like, this isn't like him to just miss his appointment. I'm like, he's in paradise right now, bro.
I was like, oh yeah, shit, you're in Cayman Islands. Yep, I forgot. Yeah.
So then you were on stage for prejudging. So for people who don't know, prejudging is where it's you and all the other competitors in your class, and the class is based off of your height, at least for men's physique, you know. So you're out there, you know, it's you and the handful of other guys in your class, and Peyton and I told you we were going to be screaming at you, like literally screaming, telling you, you know, reset, open up, hand on hip, you know, widen your back, chest up, whatever the hell.
Did you hear
us?
I heard 100%. Yeah. But like, oh, you'll hear us. You'll hear us from the stage. And I was like, okay. And then so I'm thinking like, okay, like, will I hear them? And then I just hear it because that's where I saw where you guys were sitting. It's like, okay. chest up, widen back. And it's like I heard you guys. Okay,
because you could hear some of the other coaches like trying to tell their competitors, you know, like reset, but they have that like big smile and they're looking at the judges, they're not paying attention. And Peyton and I were like, Devin, chest up, and get fucking bigger. And all of a sudden you see him like go up, and I mean, and then honestly helped because they did that, and then all of a sudden they moved you pretty much into the middle, and you were splitting middle, you know, with the guy in the middle and then one other person, so you were right there.
I was shitting bricks. I was like, damn, center stage. Oh shit! No. But then, you know, they just made some other adjustments. But that was.
So then you do that, and then they say, you know, gentlemen, thank you. You know, you can go ahead and clear off, and they're going to bring the next group out. So you walk off stage. What was the feeling? What was going through your head?
Oh, relief, euphoria. You know, just all the dopamine in the world going through my head. Like, damn, like I actually did it. But like, it's not over, right? Still got the night show. But I mean, at least for then, like, the nerves is done, it's gone. I can relax until finals. But that was
the finals, and then Peyton took over. In the finals, and finals is the easy part. You go back.
Judging's pretty much done at that point. You do your individual routine. You know, you go get your award type deal, and then you were done. So you're done at this point. You get off stage. You go out.
Like, what was that feeling? I love this feeling. The feeling of after I'm done with the show, I got my medals. I'm back there. I'm packing up, and I know in any point in that time frame, Jess and the baby walks backstage, or I walk out and then I see them right there. That feeling, bro, when the little one gave me a hug and said, "Daddy, I'm so proud of you. You know, I see you on stage." That, it doesn't matter what place I'm in. I could be last, second, third. I don't give a shit. And Colton seen that. Where he came back and gave me a hug, and I was like, and he wanted to wear my medals, and that moment for me was surreal. Like, I love, like, I can't wait for you to experience that.
I can't wait, because I wanted to do a show this year, but Mila's she's too young, it's not going to work. So I'm thinking maybe June next year or August. Yeah, and she'll be a year and a half old at that point.
Yeah, Jack's kind of had a rough time. Not necessarily.
He was too young though, right? I mean,
right?
Yeah. He's too young. I mean,
not necessarily that he was fussy, just. It was loud and everyone would like cheer, and
screaming
and cheering. That was
I'm sure
like got him scared. But I mean, other than that, he would have been fine. But yeah, that was.
What did you eat after the show?
Yeah, I had
What'd you go get?
Tucanos.
Oh yeah, you did. You went to Tucano's. Yeah.
It's funny because I normally eat a lot at Tucano's, right? But there I had maybe
a little bit,
plate and a half of food, and I was like, I'm done. I can't eat anymore.
No,
because your stomach shrink.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people know this. People, when you're prepping for a show, your stomach actually really shrinks.
You're hardly eating anything. Yeah, it expands because of the water, but that's really it.
So it's very cool, man. So now that we know your story of growing up, have your first coach, and then ultimately, I'm your second coach essentially, and I'm still coaching you. And now that we've done the show, and then I transition you from a meal plan to macros. So what is that like?
That's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's what it's been. Let's see, you did it Tuesday, so it'll be a week next Tuesday. It's just overeating. It's hard to gauge. Just the fact that there's that much more freedom. Like, oh, you could fit this in, but if you fit this in, you're going to take away from everything else. And so,
but it teaches you. It forces you to learn.
Yeah, you have to learn how to change things and be able to do it on the fly too. You know?
And I like that. I like the fact that I'm like learning how to do, essentially, create my own meal plan. Like, okay, these are the foods I like, that I really enjoy. Like, how does that work with my days meals? And that's really...
I mean, technically, you could be on a meal plan for the rest of your life and pay a coach to do that, but it's not realistic. And so we want our clients to be able to have the ability to know what their body likes, what it doesn't like, how to eat. And then that way, if one day you're like, just like, for example, if I don't want chicken breast, I want chicken thigh, you know how to change your, or how to fit that into macros for protein, but also fat. So like, well, if I do chicken thighs, I'm not going to have that peanut butter with the cream of rice in the morning.
And every single client that we transition to macros, they'll never go back to a meal plan. I'm like, I will never go back to a meal plan, and I'm okay with that because I prep my last 4 shows all macros, and I get to eat essentially whatever I wanted. Yeah,
and it made it easier
the entire time as long as the caloric intake is lower than I'm burning, right? So. So let me explain on a lot of people that are listening to this around. If you don't have a coach specifically, we want to ensure that not only our clients understand the discipline of following a meal plan. If you're successful at that, like you did, and so did you, and so did Colton, then we allow you to transition to macros. If you're not following the meal plan in the first place, if you're having a hard time receiving instructions and following the plan, and you're always cheating and you're always substituting things, and by the time we transition to macros, I will not let you because you're not ready yet. Because you don't have your self-discipline to follow a meal plan. What makes you think you can follow a macros?
If you can't sit down and just make a simple, breakfast that we prescribe for you, how are you going to convince yourself to not fit in Krispy Kreme every day, or ice cream or Taco Bell or whatever the hell it is? Right.
And then another thing that I want to talk about, if you have been on this journey with a coach, or maybe not with a coach, and you have a meal plan, right? So essentially, if someone gave you a meal plan and you like to follow a meal plan, and if you've done this for over a year at least minimum, in my opinion, I think you should start transition to macros. Because if you don't, then you will always rely on someone or a coach to give you a meal plan, which in return, our job, it's enabling you to learn more. And understanding that, hey, we want you to do your own thing, right? Because I'm not going to coach you forever, right?
And that's the whole purpose, right, behind getting a coach, right, is not only to learn, right, the specific movements and how your body reacts to certain things, but also to learn how to create your own meals. Because, like you said, he's not going to be there forever.
No, it's to make it sustainable. That's the whole thing is sustainability, be able to do this for the rest of your life. So in that way, down the road, you're like, you go out to eat, it's your son's birthday, and you guys have a bunch of pizza. Like, well, okay, this is really going to throw me off, but, okay, I'll do this for lunch, and then I'm just going to have to, maneuver some food around it and make it work. But guess what? You doing that, not only did you get to enjoy the pizza, but you're probably going to wake up the next day and your weight is going to be just fine, or you might even lose a little bit of weight. That's how it should be.
Because you didn't overconsume.
No, and you built a good relationship with food.
Yeah.
And you didn't have that guilt of like, oh shit, I had some pizza.
Yeah. And I think, and make no mistake, and I tell all my clients this, the first 3 to 4 weeks, the first 30 days of each transition to macros, you will fail. And I already know that's
fine.
Because
it's okay.
I did the same thing. I failed the first 30 days. I was struggling. I was like, dude, I don't like this.
I remember when Brandon told me he was putting me on macros, And I think I texted him back and was like, please fucking don't.
Yeah.
I am not ready for that to have to figure it out. But once you do, I mean, you probably felt it too. Like as you're starting to get the groove of it, you're like, holy shit, this is so nice.
Yeah.
And
what you realize is you're going to be eating the same thing on the weekdays anyway.
Yeah.
You
just default back to what you're eating on the meal plan.
I just repeat myself. Yeah.
On the weekends. You get good at it too. I mean, not even just with like macros. Like now I'm confident that I could scoop out 5 ounces of ground turkey without using a scale. Like you just know. Like I mean you should use one anyway, but it's just getting to that point now where I'll scoop and I'll be like, I'm gonna need a little more and I'll do it. It'll be like 4.5. Like you just get good at it. And that's a lifelong skill like that you have, and it takes a minute too, because what did I do? Like 2 weeks into macros, I texted you, I was like, bro, this sucks. I was like, put me on a meal plan. And he told me no. So then I texted Desi, another coach, was like, put me on a meal plan. She's like, Johan told me to tell you no. and I was like, damn it. Yeah, dude. She was like, I was told not to do it.
How easy is it?
Now it's easy. Yeah. Now it's easy. But it took me a minute.
And I know my client Jordan listened to this as well. And she felt too. She felt hard, bro. Like the first couple of weeks,
she texting her about it.
She literally texted me, I need you to put me on meal plan. I'm like, nope. I refuse to do that. And then now she's like, I will never go back to a meal plan. No, but it's really cool to see your transformation from point A to point B. I love that who you are today. I think you're a different person. You know, your personality has grown so much because of confidence. How confident are you when you went to the Cayman Islands and you've seen? Let's talk about this. And I want you to be as real as you can. When you went on vacation, how many people that you see that are typically overweight?
I feel like comparatively, like looking at myself to everyone else, it's like I feel like every single person I saw is overweight.
And overweight doesn't necessarily mean like obese.
Yeah,
like 700 pounds, or whatever. It's just.
But I mean, just the fact that what I've been through for the last 6 months, going on vacation and seeing that, it's like. Like, why isn't everybody doing this?
But for me, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You know, going to the beach or, Disneyland or, even just going to Harmon's and grocery shopping, seeing that, like, and there's, I want to make sure people know, like, this isn't us bashing on air. Like, if you were in that position, like, that's okay. Like, it's okay. That's totally fine.
If you love yourself.
Yeah, that's all that matters. That you respect yourself and you value yourself.
I love that.
But for me, like, it just makes me, I start to almost like worry about people, and I don't even know them. I see them, and all I can think in my head is like, I just hope that they're okay. I hope that they don't go home and that they are, they hate themselves or they hate looking in the mirror or anything. And it breaks my heart to see that. I'm like, I just want to go up to them and just like, can I help you? Like,
when we go to like a park with water in it, whether that's a lake or splash pad or whatever, how many people are wearing shirts and they're wet, right? And because they want to hide themselves. And I get it. Like, and if you're happy doing that, I think it's awesome. I mean, if you're happy with who you are today, we're not fat phobic. I promise you, we're not that. This is our job. And because of our job, we notice those things. We notice the little things. We know what you're eating. We know what you're not doing. We
probably know what your blood work looks like.
We know
without even needing to get it.
Instead of walking on the stairs, you chose the elevator. I always walk on the stairs. I don't really like to do elevators. The reason why I do it now is because my little kiddo was like, "Hey, can we go on an elevator, Dad?"
Which wants to press all the buttons.
I'm like, dude,
I mean, if I'm out with my kid, I'll do elevators.
Course,
but if I'm by myself, stairs.
Yeah. So I think, when you were in the Cayman Islands and when you saw that. That's a huge perspective for you, huh?
100%. It's like the other side of the coin, like looking at it, and it's just I'll never let myself get that way again.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm just curious about it, because I've ran into this issue before. So, like, before I really got into the bodybuilding and all that, I mean, I've always been just skinny and scrawny, and I was always self-conscious going to the pool or the beach and taking my shirt off because I was underweight.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that's why a lot of people at the beach and the pool and all that will keep their shirts on, because they might have a self-conscious issue about being underweight or overweight. Did you in the Cayman Islands going to the beach, did you have any kind of hesitation taking your shirt off? Like, did you have any subconscious thing in the back of your head from where you were before you got looking like this? Or did you take your shirt off and you're like, oh, I feel good. And you start looking around, seeing how everyone else is. And did it almost make you feel uncomfortable and want to put your shirt back on? Because I've run into that. Me too. Where I'm at the beach, a couple years ago with my family, and I took my shirt off. I'm sitting there, I'm looking around. I'm like, well, shit, what if people are looking at me and being, and thinking something negative about the way I look?
Right.
And I, at that point, put my shirt back on, and I had a hard time with it.
I mean, I can't really speak to feeling any type of way taking my shirt off. And for the most part, at least the people at the beach that I saw, I mean, there were some people that had their shirts on and stuff. But I didn't feel like any eyes were on me. I was just another beach goer.
That's good.
So that was...
Yeah. I've run into a situation for me when I hang out with my family. I try not to, in a sense, show off in a way, because when I do take my shirt off and people are always like, whoa, yo, you look great. And it's like, I love the compliment, don't get me wrong, but it's like also almost making me uncomfortable because they say that as a reflection of themselves as well. So because I know they're not at that level. And it's okay. I'm not saying it is, but sometimes it makes us uncomfortable because we're the minority when you walk into a room, But at the end of the day, we should not feel that way. I shouldn't feel guilty walking to a room or going swimming. I shouldn't feel guilty because...
Isn't it interesting that you're being shamed for taking care of yourself?
Yeah.
And people you think you're so much better. It's like, well, no, I don't actually.
No, but I know that's what people think.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, due to their own insecurity and all that. Correct. And that just makes me feel even worse for them.
Yeah.
That they, because we've been there before. I've been there before where I saw someone, I'm at the gym and I'm trying to work out. I'm in my head about stuff. And I see a guy who's taking care of himself. I'm like, well, fuck you, dude. And then, you get mad or, just whatever. And you get in your head about it. So it's just sad.
All right. Well, we're approaching the end of our podcast, and it's been amazing to have a conversation with you, seeing your perspective of who you are before being a dad and after being a dad, and still manage to prep while being a dad and provider and all that fun stuff. I know it's not easy, but you did it, bro. All. You did it, right? Any advice? I like to ask this question. Any advice that people listening to this podcast to either start their journey, or doing what you did, right? So what is your advice for the at least the dads out there that are listening to this?
Just start it. Just start it and just do it, because you're setting the example for your kids. And you're essentially setting the standard of just kind of how, what healthy living looks like.
Yep.
And then obviously your kid's going to look up to you if you're eating garbage. Oh, no, dad eats garbage. Or, oh, dad works out. Dad's eating fit and he's eating his veggies. And, oh, I'll eat my veggies too, So it's a monkey see, monkey do kind of.
Exactly.
100%. I think leading by example, right? Especially as a parent, we're all dads now, right? And we don't, and the cool thing about this is when you live this healthy lifestyle, we don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have any junk food at the house. Right. Of course, you have some fruit snacks and stuff for the kiddo, right? You're always going to have little kid snack.
Yeah.
But because we eat healthy consistently every single day, he eats what we eat.
Yep.
Your kid eat what you eat. Mila eats what you eat.
She probably will, yeah. Which I know people have asked, are you going to make your kid eat what you eat and eat chicken and rice all day? I'm like, no. I'm not going to do that to my daughter if she doesn't want to. But chances are, just like Owie, I remember a while ago I was over here and you were getting ready to eat, and you're like, Ozo, what do you want to eat? He's like, steak and rice. And exactly salad. And salad. Exactly what his dad's eating.
I'm like,
it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, same thing. I'm just gonna eat, and if she comes to me, she's like, Dad, can I have some chicken and rice with you? I'm like, all right, baby girl, let's go. Yeah.
But thank you for being on, man. And thank you guys for listening to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to do a shout out.
Yeah.
This is a couple weeks ago was our very first episode. It's been 1 year of Unfinished Lifestyle episodes. So it's great and honored to be in this room with great individuals, including our clients, and a lot of you guys are sharing our podcast, sharing our YouTube videos from the podcast.
And we get a lot of people coming up to us telling us that they're listening to it. And so it's refreshing to know that what we're doing is working. People are wanting to listen.
And it's really cool to have a podcast. If any one of you owns your own business now, and I think it's cool to have a podcast because you can only post so much on social media. But podcasts allow us to really go in depth into what we really talk about and kind of educate people and also talk about your journey. So thank you guys for following us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing our reels on social medias, all that fun stuff. So huge shout out to Colton. Colton's been with us since Unfinished Lifestyle, before Unfinished Lifestyle started. And so he's been a huge part of our company as well. So that's it, man.
All right.
I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Later. Episode 20 next. Damn. That's crazy.